The concept of luxury travel has fundamentally changed and evolved over the years. The glamour associated with opulent accommodations and crystal chandeliers has made way for a very different kind of upscale travel, the luxury of adventure, experience, authenticity, and uninterrupted time. Welcome to Doing Business in Rwanda. I'm Ridhima Shukla. And in this episode, we will take you to one of Rwanda's most exquisite locations, the Volcanoes National Park, and sit down for a one-on-one with the CEO of Wilderness Safaris to learn about trends, sustainability, and creativity in tourism. Over 100 kilometers from Kigali city, in the thicket of the Volcanoes National Park, lies Bisate, an eco-friendly luxury lodging by Wilderness Safaris, where we met CEO Keith Vincent during his visit to take account of post-COVID developments at the group's most recent venture. We began our conversation with a little history.
Well, in the early years, obviously we started off our business in Botswana and there was an enormous amount to do just in Botswana in the initial years. And we expanded into Zimbabwe and Namibia initially from Botswana. And obviously from that perspective, they were next door neighbors. It was easy for us to move from one country to the other. And then from there we moved up into Zambia. And then from there we moved into Kenya. And we also built a lodge in the Seychelles, on an island in the Seychelles. So from a point of view is we were now looking at where else could we go. Obviously gorillas being an iconic species and something that deserved being looked after, we started looking around for a gorilla site. And obviously, the two prime gorilla sites are Rwanda and Uganda, and we started doing our homework in and around Rwanda. And Uganda for that matter, and we chose Rwanda as the place of preference to us in the kind of tourism and the kind of investments we were trying to make.
When you came here and set up Bisate being your first property, what was the next step? You said you want to put people here for a number of days, 9 days at a go especially, and with your high prices, how does that work out? Because what is your target audience?
There was no doubt before we invested that there was a hole in the market in Rwanda for the luxury tourists and targeting into your ultra high net worth customers around the world. And that was where the gap at that particular moment in time existed. So that was our target market on day one. And the expansion of that became natural into the next step was the Rwandan government and the Rwandan Development Board and ourselves, and then we created a partnership between the Rwandan Development Board, African Parks, and ourselves in Akagera National Park. And it was actually quite funny at the time when we were starting to talk about it outside of Rwanda, was people were asking us, but there's no wildlife in Rwanda. There's only gorillas. We mustn't forget, obviously there's lots of other ape species like the golden monkey, the mountain monkey in Gishwati, etc. But with the redevelopment and the protection of Akagera National Park, it became an attractive proposition for us to build another lodge in Akagera.
What about COVID? Because you set up Akagera in Magashi in Akagera in 2019, if I'm not wrong. And how has that panned out for you? Because COVID has changed travel and tourism worldwide. And how did that impact your business?
The impact was devastating to every tourism business across Africa and many other industries as well. So, literally the whole world came to a stop for our industry and more importantly for our employees. And there's no doubt that impact we'll feel for some years to come. I think the exciting part, and I think this is where the Rwandan government must be congratulated for the way they've handled it, is Rwanda was our very first properties to reopen in our entire group. Bisate reopened in August last year. And there was some really important steps that the country as a whole took. So we're incredibly pleased with the results coming out of Rwanda at the moment, and we see that this is a great stepping stone for not only the country but for ourselves as a business, but also gives us great confidence to further invest in the country.
What kind of trends are you seeing here now in the tourism industry, whether it is how to acquire customers or it is to ensure them of their safety and financial trends?
So, I mean, first and foremost is health and safety has become, let's call it the go-to word in the world today. And a lot of it is around wellness in the form of be it diet, be it safety of travel. So, air access always plays a vital role. And the excitement of what's happening in Rwanda today with the building of the new airport, the partnership between Qatar Airlines and Rwandan Airlines, those are very positive, exciting moves for the future of Rwandan tourism. From a health and safety point of view, we know that the safety protocols and the environment we're working in here is very safe. It's open air, it's very small numbers of people, so low volumes of people, wide open spaces, good clean air to breathe, and all from there. Now the next step is making sure that we provide a healthy diet and a great food offering while we're at it as well. So there's many different factions of it. I think from a perspective of in this time frame, it also allowed us to do a lot of training of our staff and making sure that on the one hand, our staff well-being is taken care of, but two, adding on the extra bit of training to up the service levels every single day.
But what about a financial trend? COVID pretty much did not allow people to get out of their homes for a really long time. And then now, because of the inoculation process, people are stepping out and people are getting out of their nations and coming down to places like Rwanda. So what kind of financial trends do you see there in the tourism industry? Like a flux?
I'm personally actually quite, let's call it optimistic, that probably early next year we're going to see a very strong uptick. One, the global savings from our customer base has gone up. That's recorded all throughout the financial world. And also people, I think have realized in this time frame that life is delicate and life is short, and the need to spend their discretionary dollars, or pounds or euros or whatever kind of currency they're coming from, actually having lifetime experiences has a lot more value than, let's call it, material goods. And I think from that perspective, we're going to see a really nice upsurge. Having said that, we can see those trends coming. We can see the booking sheets ahead of us. We're getting great bookings for next year. And actually not just in Rwanda, but across the group in Southern Africa as a whole. So that's very exciting. I think there's going to be a lot of changes in how businesses work, and not so much on the, let's call it, on the lodge operational side, but in the booking channel side. And the traditional travel agent side, there's quite a lot of, obviously the COVID affected those businesses immensely as well. And making sure that the customers got confidence in the booking channel. I think we'll see those channels starting to shorten in the future. That doesn't distract from the importance of the role that travel agent plays in getting people to go to a variety of different destinations. I think they will still play an important role. But how that chain actually works tomorrow will be changing. There's no doubt about it. We're seeing the changes happen already.
How much investment has gone into building this ecosystem?
I mean, it's massive. If you look, following our investment, our initial investment, following very closely behind us was a very big investment by One and Only, and another very big investment by Singita. So what happened was, when we invested and they saw how quickly we actually became successful, they were hot on our heels. And by the way, competition's great. It's fantastic. But when you think about it from a country's perspective, our investment probably spurred another $100 million of growth for the country in just tourism.
What about the returns? In comparison to your other properties across Africa, how has Rwanda performed?
Very good.
If you could give me a percentage breakdown, would you have one?
No, I certainly do. I think from a point of view I think from a perspective of, let's take COVID out of it, you could be making 30 to 40% returns annually quite easily. in a normal year. And that's driven by two things. It's driven by occupancy, and the demand is growing. I mean, it was certainly growing exponentially pre-COVID. I'm pretty confident that that's going to come back to us again. So anything above a 20-25% return is pretty healthy, and that we can easily achieve in Rwanda. I'm confident of that. And there's lots of factors that help that level of return come.
Such as? Such
as air access. Ease of entry and ease of travel is paramount to this industry. Without it, it will wither and die. The other side of the coin is an investment conducive environment. And Rwanda is exceptionally good at making the environment to invest very welcoming and very conducive to very efficient and quick investment opportunities. That just encourages, in our view, encourages investors to not only invest the first time, but to add on to those investments in the future.
You have sustainable ecotourism, these ultra luxury experiences, the high net individual as your customer. What's next?
I mean, the very simple goal is to triple the amount of land and conservation under the influence of conservation and wildlife in the future. With that, another side of that equation is to ensure that we're passing on to the next generation of people who are going to take over from people like myself, is making sure that we leave the world in a better place than we found it in. And I can honestly say, sitting here today, this piece of land here and this investment is in a far better place today than it was 5 years ago. Now imagine what this will look like in 10 or 15 years' time if there's 5 times the amount of land surrounding here fully forested and available to conservation. And I can already see that improvement.
Will this remain your private property, or what is the plan for this property once it turns into a forest? How do you plan on sharing it with the local people around you or the animals in the forest?
Look, I mean, that's firstly, it's a great question. I think from a point of view is as our staff are actually coming in and the number of our staff grow as we expand this offering into the future, because we intend to expand this offering relatively shortly. With that means that more of our staff are starting to witness that change. They will then talk to their family members and their friends outside of this sort of, let's call it, micro environment. And then it's very easy for us to start inviting our staff and their friends to come in and hopefully see golden monkeys and hopefully see nature evolving and encourage them and wanting them to take part in it. And I think today we're sitting in such a wonderful period, because there's no doubt that the young people cared so much more about the environment than 20 or 30 years ago. And that, I think, really puts the world in a great space. And as we're handing over to the next generations, let's give them the runway to go and take advantage of it.
Infrastructural development, investment, and improvement in accessibility are making Africa one of the world's most desirable destinations, where high-end vacations are dictated by experiences that are purposeful, sustainable, and memorable. And though small in size, Rwanda is claiming a big chunk of this market. That's all for today. This was Doing Business in Rwanda. Thank you for watching.